Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want you fired up about my guest. We will be spending time today with Wally Eaglesham and Dr. Jane Magon Eaglesham as well. Now, the title of the book, Wally's War, Wally's Peace. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we're about to get started. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, it's very exciting to be
and be invited.
Because Australians are very close to the Americans, and I served with the American military during the Vietnam War. And one thing that I always find fascinating when I go to America, when I talk to Americans, I say, "Oh, I was fought in Vietnam, and I was part of your I division." And they say, "Oh, thank you for your service." And you know, Dr. Angela, every American that I've met throughout the world, when I tell them I've been in Vietnam and attached to them, they all say without exception, "Thank you for your service."
You know, I could not agree with you more. And I was going to tell you, thank you for your service as well. And I think that that's something that has changed the world over since Vietnam. I think that they did not get the proper welcome home that they received, even if you didn't agree with the politics, to still understand that your fellow citizen was trying to make the world a better place. Now we say that much more often to everyone from every country who's willing to sacrifice in the honor of what we're trying to do as a collective. So thank you as well for your service. Now, let me ask you something about, speaking of you personally. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? There may be some folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question, what makes you you, other than your military service? And again, thank you for that.
Well, my life has been extraordinary by any means. I've lived by a code that I didn't understand, but it defined my life, and I was going down the wrong track. And because I come from in the bush in Australia, and I made it my pilgrimage to adulthood with the determination that I had to be a good person. But Dr. Angela, that was easier said than done.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that a lot of people would say that as well, trying to be your best.
He was a very naughty boy, wild. I call him a free-range child. That's how you describe chickens, right? His parents were sort of busy, and he wasn't supervised enough, although his mother was a very good person. And he got into a lot of trouble of all kinds and had the most amazing adventures. And one of the most beautiful parts, really interesting parts of the book, are the stories about his childhood that are very detailed, descriptive, creative, mind-boggling, shocking, surprising, you name it.
I love that. And you know, I think that when we look at particular time marks in history, that everyone's story about their childhood, there seemed to be a freedom for those that we would call, that were raised to be those baby boomers. So I believe that's like the late 30s to about the mid 50s or so. People born during that time. You're right. I like that. you were free range kids. And there was, you know, just being out with nature and enjoying yourself and trying not to get in too much mischief, but really having a great childhood. So I have to agree with you there. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do? Or did you find that you had that encouragement from someone else that said, this needs to get out to the masses?
No, I had no intentions of writing my book because I was so busy in my life that it didn't occur to me. What I did notice, though, as I got older, was that my behaviour something was wrong. It was risk-taking because on the last count that I've had was 37 near-death experiences. And my life has been a whirling, non-stop action.
Pushing to the edge.
To the edge. And I couldn't understand why. And then what brought me to write the book was it came to my personal attention when I had a meeting with myself that I wasn't going to go anywhere but to the grave if I didn't cease with this risk-taking.
Yeah.
So
death-defying.
So I thought to myself, this if I can record my life in its fullest, because I could speak, I had an ability to speak how I think, and I made my pilgrimage to this new world of adulthood, and I was really in trouble because I was still a child, and it wasn't until I married Jane that I became an adult.
Oh, I don't know about that.
She got a PhD in 4 degrees. I went to grade 8 at school. I became a multimillionaire, and Dr. Jane.
Oh, all right.
became
Wally, stop it.
Well, you know, I love it when couples can still have fun no matter what, and that is just so evident with the two of you, and I love how you're able to really, you assist each other, but yet you give each other his or her own freedom. And I think that is beautiful, finding that there's a beauty in being an individual, but also that beauty in the togetherness that you have. I love it. I love it. Now, when it comes to the title of your book, every author has to decide, what are we going to name this particular work? How did you come about the title for your book?
Well, I came up with a different title, which turned out to.
I argued about it.
Jane put that to bed pretty quickly. So I stopped pretending that I had a PhD and took it upon myself to listen to her. And she came out with the
Wally's piece.
Because it's very interesting. In fact, it's fascinating. The story, which I don't have the time or the ability to tell during this interview, but it's an incredible journey, because when I started the journey to my mortality, which is the road I'm on now, I found that I was falling apart because I was too concerned about my mortality. And so I decided that I had to find out why I was always in trouble. And if I wasn't in trouble, I was tap dancing, trying to get out of trouble. And I had things like I had to amputate my own foot, and take it off. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've had
a pistol shoved down your throat.
And my life has been, and this hasn't been helped by my father. But what I did learn was that I learned about codependent relations, which were developing in my life, which were helping me. And it wasn't until I finally got to the position where I had to do something or I was going to die, at my own hand, because the problem started with my family, my father. And I used to get taken into the flogging room every night with a leather strap. He was drunk all the time, and this is Australia-wide problem, worldwide problem.
But he was damaged by fighting in World War II in Papua New Guinea. It was a very, very cruel part of the war, and he didn't come back the same.
So to complete that answer, Wally's war was when I was at war with my father. I was at war with the police. I was at war with anybody that
stood in your way, really.
That got him away. And then when I found peace, it came from a really, really interesting direction. It came from a place that I thought that I would never go. And I can't discuss that on this because it's at the end of the book. And it's a wonderful, it's a sacrifice that I've made, and it's come to peace, and I've been able to forgive myself, and realise that what I have done is make my life more bearable, so that I didn't go to. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous. Even 26 years I've been off the grog, doctor, and 26 years, and without a drink, and that makes me so proud that I set an example. So it's my peace, and when people read my book, they will see and read and understand that that this is possible.
Also, the title I saw as two sides of his personality, that there was a PTSD type fight side to him, but there was no one who, in his more healthy days, pre-Parkinson's, who had better grasp over language and could argue things. He could calm things down. He could mentor people. He could do all sorts of things verbally. And the interesting thing is the times he chose to not be peaceful, but also because his life has been so adventurous, like channeling through massive seas towards the Antarctic to rescue someone, and the whole ship nearly going under, horse rides, all sorts of things. It's just incredible that someone can do all those things and push them. And there was always this kind of death wish underlying everything.
You know, I find it so interesting that when we are able to take the time to look back over our lives with this 2020, with our 2020 glasses on and with a fine-tooth comb, we can see where our lives take a pivot one way or the other. And not that I'm saying that we ever live with regret, but we just see where, that's where that went that way. And I see how that was a ripple effect there. And we really and truly are able to see how our lives have taken the course that they have. But the beautiful thing about living is that it teaches us lessons along the way. And I love how you are now taking those lessons learned and you're sharing them with the world. Speaking of that, it is time for us to go to break, but I do want, if you could please remind everyone of the title of your book. Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Wally's War, Wally's Peace, the story of an Aussie legend. It's available at Amazon and anywhere you can buy books. And email probably wallyandjane@gmail.com. Would that do?
All righty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
We are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Now, Wally and Dr. Jane, my next question for you is 30 plus
37.
life-changing 30
37. Near-death
30
experiences. 37.
No, stop. Let us finish.
You have 30 plus life-changing events that have gone on in your life. I know that people are going, oh my goodness, we have to know more about that. Can you tell us more about that? How in the world are you able to get a grasp on all of that?
Angela, it is fascinating. It is incredible because I've experienced it, and I've experienced something that the world doesn't know, because there's not too many men around that have had 37 near-death experiences. And where it's come from is when I did time in military prison, one of the heaviest, worst prisons, military prisons, and it taught me a lesson. I went back into the military. I wasn't castrated that bad, and I learned that there was another way to do things, and that was because of my post-traumatic stress. What I was doing was the flight from Vietnam. I was wounded in Vietnam, and I've been 37 near-death experiences. I've got a story to tell. And I needed to get the story out to people who could understand that post-traumatic stress disorder, it can be a good thing, not a bad thing. It's treated as a bad thing, but in my case, it's no different to anybody else. It's got PTSD. Is that it's the ability one has to use the dopamine and the
Stress.
the other drug. The dopamine and there's another. I can't think of it with Parkinson's. It teaches you, it tears you to pieces. But what I did is I thought to myself, if I'm going to beat this disease, then I must utilize all my skills, my people skills, and use those to fulfill my self my self ability to ensure that when I go to my grave, I can go in peace. And that's how it is now. What's happening in finality in that, with the post-traumatic stress disorder, the medication for the fight or flight syndrome. What I've done is taken the fight side of the disorder, and that's what I was getting into trouble for all the time, because I was because I was in this fight. So my book is full of these incredible examples that are so real, because they came out of my spirit and out of my love for humanity, which changed from when I was a child, when I wasn't a very good person.
But at the same time, you were always the centre of attention. You were popular. He was a leader. He was a born leader, and I reckon there's a gene for leadership. There's got to be. And he turned out to be a great mentor. He was good to a lot of people as well. So he doesn't focus on that. But
The gene, explain to doctor.
Oh, and also over time he discovered that he had the MAOLA warrior gene, which can get people into trouble too.
Because that took me into an institution. If I'd have gone the other way, I'd have gone to prison for life. but I went to the right. Explain to my.
But also, don't forget, in that fight on the boat, you were a teenager. In the military, young people are disposable. This is what I perceive. They haven't cost much to train. People higher up the scale have cost a lot more to train. So they get saved. So someone up high got Wally to fight someone else's fight because he was too small. Wally was a really good boxer. He'd been trained by an Australian champion. And he had to pay the price by going to military prison, and they said they would pull him out.
But it did me good. It was a wonderful.
It sorted you out.
It was very painful, cruel, but it sorted me out. And from that day on, I was on the right track because I felt I knew that I'd turned the corner, and
Okay, this is the very beginning of the story. As I journey along highway mortality, I arrive at a lonely T intersection, signposted self. Do I turn left to heaven? No. Too risky, might not be allowed in. Or do I turn right to purgatory? No, been there. Maybe even backtrack to senility via mediocrity. No, never. There is a fourth option, an unconventional and risky one, straight ahead into the unknown, along life's dusty, beaten tracks with breathless distractions, no destination, wandering aimlessly in solitude through the twists and turns of an exhausted mind. This banishment of self into the near barren wilderness of my present mindset would certainly be a courageous journey of discovery of my past. Who am I? I need to know.
Oh, I love that. Informative yet intriguing. I love that. I love that. You know, as I was listening to that, it put me in the headspace of how many other military men especially feel the same way of who am I now? What do I do now? And especially those who have gone off to war. And here in the States, we tend to think only about those who have gone to the big wars or former wars, such as the Vietnam War or World War II. But my generation is now the Afghanistan war, and it is starting to change the dynamic and the atmosphere of conversations. And we do need to be aware that so many men are asking, who am I now? What do I do now? And what do I do with all of this information that I have in my head? Now, Dr. Jane, I want to ask you a question, because with that little intro, we get a glimpse into what's going on with Wally and him trying to decide which way do I go. And I love it that you said, not that way, not that way. We're going to keep moving forward. I love that. So Dr. Jane, what is it like for you? And I'm going to say as a co-survivor, as someone who has gone along on this journey as well, what is it like for you? Do you have any words of encouragement for that wife that is starting to experience some of the things that you have experienced?
It's tough, but Wally has got a good part of him too, and kind, but because he's actually demanded so much of himself, he demands so much of others. But he's also been a very, very good boss. And because he ended up owning a big transport company, and I've seen him mentor his staff. If they're having marital problems, he'd call them in, he'd help them do a budget, he would talk to them about going to AA. So he's got this incredible side to him, but because of the bad mentoring of his father, and also the training for war, he can explode very suddenly. And I used to say it took about 6 years to learn to live with him. And that's why he's had 4 wives, and I'm number 4.
They all love me, Angela.
I love it. I love it. Well, I just look at that. They usually say the third time is the charm, but you know, it was the third time plus the bonus, the cherry on top with Dr. Jane. You know,
Yeah.
not that we're going to discount those other women, but you know, I believe that God gives us the perfect people at the perfect time for the thing that we must accomplish in that timing. And it sounds like the two of you have learned how to make the perfect recipe for what you have to accomplish in this lifetime. And that's what's important. I think so many people wish that they had that partner for them for such a time as this. So I wish continued blessings on both of you, and keep being that mentor that others really do need. And there's a generation that's looking to you to keep giving that advice, keep sharing these stories, keep putting your book out there so that they're able to learn. Especially with COVID, many of our grandparents and great-grandparents, aunts and uncles have passed away due to COVID, and they've gone too soon. And because of that, we're going to have so many more people who need mentors like the two of you to kind of replace or step in and fill that void. So thank you guys so much for coming on and being here with me on Daily Spark TV. Now, before I let you go, though, can you remind everyone one last time, what is the title of the book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Wally's War, Wally's Peace, the story of an Aussie legend, available at Amazon and all bookstores you can think of. And you can contact Wally on wallyandjane@gmail.com. I just say one thing, it's a book that you're going to die laughing, and you'll cry. It's one of those books.
I love it. Thank you again, Dr. Jane. Thank you again, Wally, for spending time with me here today.
Dr. Angela, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
You've got a lovely smile.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks. We're very grateful. And thanks to Ray.
Well. And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. We hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.